Last video I ranked a handful of ANIMENZ's piano covers. In today's video I'm going to be ranking a few more. I've had a lot of comments suggesting that I should review certain covers. All I can say is hopefully I've captured enough of them in today's video. If I haven't, don't worry. Just keep commenting your suggestions down below and I will get to them when I can. Enough said, let's get straight into the video. I think this piece has a lot of emotional depth, and especially in the tricky sections in those melodic runs, it's really important to get those runners played evenly, but also not to take away from the melody. If you were to practice these sections, I'd really focus on the melody and make sure that that's coming across first before you start going into the harder sections, especially with all the runs that feature all throughout the piece. I definitely take those a lot slower in practice and then build up slowly. The piece also has one of my favourite chord progressions at the cadences of flat 4, 5, 1. So main parts to worry about in this piece, it's definitely more melody based than some of his other arrangements. So in every section there is usually a melody going on, and when there is, that should be your main focus. If there are harder parts which feature the melody over the top, obviously make sure the melody is singing out above everything else. I don't think it's quite as hard as some of the other ones that we're going to be looking at later on. On to the next one. I had a comment about this piece saying it was harder than Unravel. For the first 25 seconds you're already in double octave territory. Insane coordination required for that, by the way. For those wondering how you even practice sections like that, the answer is very slowly and very methodically. I usually do it just hand separately first and then just work out the distances between each note. I feel like this piece is just hard for the sake of being hard. There are definitely sections which could be massively reduced in difficulty and it wouldn't take away from the arrangement at all. Another thing to keep in mind when you're learning this piece, because it's very much full intensity most of the time, in those sections where it is a lot quieter, make sure you're bringing out that change in dynamics and change in texture, because if you don't, obviously it will just sound very monotonous. And also just in the sections where they're seemingly the same, never play them the same. Always have some sort of variation, keep it interesting. But yeah, on to the next one. The piece has a really nice melody just in of itself. I still stand by my statement that Colours is slightly harder than this one. Let's just talk about a few different sections, okay? First section I want to talk about is just after 1 minute, you have the left hand playing arpeggiated sequences going up and down, spanning about 2 to 3 octaves depending on which bar it is, all while the right hand is playing an octave melody which is jumping around all over the place. So there's that. Second section I want to talk about is just before 2 minutes, you have the right hand playing something incredibly difficult arpeggiated pattern I didn't even know, and it's not just a regular arpeggio either, it's playing in filler notes and different ornaments. It only goes on for 20 seconds or so, but I mean that section alone just makes it that much harder. I just don't know how he plays these sections just so flawlessly without any any imperfections. Let's move on to the next one. This one's another one that has just a really nice melody as well, and I think ANIMENZ does a really good job of just bringing that out, especially over all the really difficult sections, which there are so many of. I think a really cool section to focus on is around 3.5 minutes in. You've got this really cool left-hand thumb slide going back into the main melody. These types of techniques you don't see that often. Like a lot of arrangements I've seen on YouTube, they don't have these just weird techniques like the thumb slides. It just doesn't happen, so it's really cool to see in these ones. Main things to focus on when you're practicing these types of sections is you have to keep those melody notes balanced. You can't have, for example, the melody note in which the thumb is playing to be louder than when the pinky's playing, for example, because then it will just sound very disjointed. Another section I want to briefly talk about is just before 6.5 minutes and then into just after. The sections are completely different. This piece is still pretty hard, just in terms of just raw difficulty and notes on a page, but I do think it has that more emotional side, which also has to be sufficiently developed to get a good performance of this. Make sure you're bringing out the changes in dynamics and changes in feeling. There are a lot in this piece. It is a very long one too, almost 8 minutes. Yeah, I really love the sections where he develops that harmony, and it's a lot softer, but equally you feel that full chord progression, even though it's not at full intensity. It just has this sort of warmth to it. Yeah, it's pretty cool.